TriNet, they're a PEO for US employers. In this video, we walk you through their website, products, and services with real life examples of how it all works. You'll see the types of questions we ask and how they impact your final quote. This is the exact same process we use to help our clients decide whether or not they should schedule a sales call or completely check this vendor off the list. Each time you check a vendor off the list, it's about 5 hours per vendor that you put back on your calendar. So let's just go ahead and dive on in. All right. TriNet. So TriNet does have a PEO solution. That's what we're going to focus on. They now recently acquired Zenefits, which is now, and you can see another video on this, HR platform. So it's TriNet HR platform. They are almost done with the process of moving that over, but we're going to focus on the PEO solution. So when you look at the PEO, you are seeing all these different little widgets here. When you look at the PEO advantages, I mean, look, here's the advantage of the PEO. Unless you've been in HR before, maybe you wouldn't completely understand this, but what makes it so powerful is you take payroll, which has all the different tax reporting laws that you have to follow. You have to make sure 941s are filed for federal. For if you're in California, DE9, DE9C. You have to make sure that they're done quarterly by the 15th at the end of the year, end of the month. You have to make sure if you have benefits that you have them properly coded as Section 125. There's applicable large employer status at a certain level once you get to 1,500 hours or more per week. Once you get to the point where you're offering a 401k, you have ERISA, you have all kinds of different things you need to do, 5,500s, all that. You get to wrap that all up into one easy solution. And the reason why you're able to do that is you have a co-employment model. The co-employment piece doesn't mean they come in and tell you what to do with your employees. No, administratively, they are recognized as one of the EIN that your employees are on. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to outsource your payroll reporting directly to their EIN number. And on the W-2, sometimes you'll have the PEOs. There is times when you have either like 2 line items, or you can request, hey, we want our company's name on the W-2 because people don't want to see, say like they may not want to see TriNet 3 or TriNet 4 or TriNet's PEO on there. So again, like you're combining payroll, benefits. When they say risk mitigation, that means things like your HR best practices. That means helping you out with safety, workers' comp claims, right? Those types of things that they'll help you out with that. The technology platform is really like the HRS. How are you actually working on their platform? Contractors and global workforce. I would say that I believe they partner out a lot of those items, especially with the global workforce. I'm pretty certain they do. But hey, we say when you go through the sales process, definitely ask because their competitors are doing it and they're doing it pretty well. Benefits wise, I will say that TriNet is probably one of my favorite PEO providers when it comes to benefits. And I will tell you exactly why. Their rates are regional. What that means is instead of having one master contract with one carrier, call it Aetna or UHC, and sometimes people will have like Kaiser here and there because you kind of have to have Kaiser. What TriNet does is they'll say, if you're in Florida, we give you access to Florida Blue. Hey, if you're in California, you get Blue Cross of California. Like you get like literally you like you get Blue Shield account. Like if you get the Blues in like let's say if like you go with a provider that typically would just have a national plan, sometimes people are like, well, I need Harvard Pilgrim if I'm in Boston. TriNet offers Harvard Pilgrim in Boston. If you need Tufts and you're in Boston, then yeah, like this is a great platform for you. So the other thing that's pretty cool about that, I'll say, is if you're in certain fields like biotech or, deep tech or maybe even, SaaS, in the Northeast, if you have people that are in Massachusetts and you're trying to steal them away from a large company that offers those regional carriers, then yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to compete. TriNet lets you do that. The other thing is if you have employees in different parts of the country, you can actually get different rates. So what that means is if you're headquartered in New York, you're not just going to be stuck to having like employees with options that only make sense for people in New York. I'll tell you how that benefits you is an employee that works in New York. City is arguably more expensive to insure than an employee might be in Florida. It's just That's just the truth. Benefits are just more cost effective in Florida than they are in New York City. So that being the case, if you have people with regional plans, when you look at the plan designs, you'll see so many. Now, some folks are intimidated by this. They're like, I don't want to offer 48 plans. That's ridiculous, Steve. Well, no, like actually, if you go through the process, the employees, they can only see the plans that are available to them based off of their zip code. And the technology pretty much explains it itself. When you walk through the onboarding process, and if you have a really good rep, we have our reps actually go through an open enrollment with them. The HR teams usually do that. I think TriNet does a decent job at walking people through that. If you look online, I do see a lot of people kind of slamming TriNet for their customer service. I mean, I don't believe that their customer service model is bad. I think it changed. You went from having like an HR business partner, like, whoa, I have one point of contact, to more of an omni-channel approach. Why? Well, because in most cases, an employee that's calling in and asking, hey, like, where's my insurance card? Or how do I transfer over my 401k? Well, that doesn't require your HR business partner to really answer that question. Almost anyone can answer that question. And nowadays, mostly chatbots can answer that question. But some people do feel like a certain way. They want to get a live person. They want to chat on the phone with them. They want to go through things. I do think TriNet provides that support. You just have to kind of know where to triage. And I believe that they did a great job a few years ago of implementing that, although a lot of people weren't too fond of it. But change happens. I thought it was for the better. As far as benefits, for 401k, I believe you're able to still carve out. Carving out a 401k means that you can keep your 401k where it's at and you don't have to adopt their multi-employer platform. So if you have a multi-employer plan on a 401k and you want to transfer it all over, you may have to have a blackout period. You may have to re-enroll people, and they're going to be a little bit of lapse in between when they can fund it or not, potentially. Or if you're coming off of the PEO onto your own plan, then that could be a hiccup. So you'll want to talk through that with either your 401k advisor or get some more insights on whether or not that makes sense. They do actually have a 401k team that they bring in, and they can do an analysis and see, does it make sense to use TriNet's 401k or just keep your own? So pretty cool. As far as employee size, employee count, I think it's agnostic to that because there's like over 300,000 lives on here. So this platform can work for the right company at any scale. We've had companies over 1,000 employees in our past that we've seen grow from 64 to over 1,200, and they did quite well on their platform. Again, I think it's more about how you administer payroll, how you do your timekeeping, how you pay people and such. Like those technical things are more what's going to influence whether or not a PEO platform is right for you or you require a little bit more customization. Also, it really depends on your internal resources. If you just want to set it and forget it and it's just all salary employees, honestly, like this solution is just a no-brainer almost at any size. But there might become a point where you say, you know what, we want to bring it in-house. Makes more sense to have an HR person internally figuring out all these different things. I would also argue that as a broker that sets this PEOs up and externally on the open market or with level funded plans or self-insured plans, there's a lot of little administrative tasks, and all those little line items, if you want to automate them, they do add up. Now, cool thing about working with TriNet is you can carve some of those things out in certain cases. If you want to just have workers' comp and payroll, they do have an exchange for that. They do have one where you can do medical, dental, vision, life, all those things, or just carve out the medical piece alone, keep your current broker, and we kind of install our stuff in the background. Or again, they have like the Zenefits model where you can just not be on the PEO and still work with TriNet, but that's a different platform. As far as the employee life cycle, so I would say with TriNet's technology, they do a pretty good job with onboarding employees. You can send employees an email, they log in, they can fill out all their information. You can carry over some of that info from the hiring tool or from the applicant tracking system. You'll want to get a complete demo of the applicant tracking system and how that carries over to the onboarding in the platform. If it's something you're really into, we have clients that like Greenhouse or clients that are very stuck on a certain ATS model. And you don't want to mess with like your recruiting team's model if you may be on the PEO for a little bit, or you may switch off of it in a few years, because that's a lot of data migration for for that department. So you want to plan that out. The other thing I would say to look at is pricing wise. Pricing wise, does it make sense to go with the PEO? Now, this is where it gets tricky. And this is why, as a broker, if you're able to not only understand the insurance piece, but how it fits into the HRS and payroll model, it becomes powerful for the client. You want to work with a broker that understands how to negotiate the insurance on the back end, because there's what they call bands. The bands are actually tiers that they put each employer in based off of the risk profile of your group. So they're going to ask you for a census. They're going to ask you for salary, age, date of birth, dependent info. You're going to go through a whole quoting process just like you would any insurance plan, and a little bit more. They may ask you for loss runs if you have a certain SIC code. For like companies, like for the workers' comp. For the benefits piece, yeah, they're going to want to see like your current plan designs. They're going to see if you're on small group or not. They're going to want to see your renewals, all that. Look, the renewals don't tell you much if you're on a small group. If you're a small group, that means you're likely under 100. In some states, you may be under 50. But the reason why it doesn't tell you much is there's not real insights into how you use your plan. Now, if the strategy is for you to use the PEO for a few years and then possibly grow out of it because you're going to be over 100 people, maybe you're getting funding and all that stuff, and right now you just need the scaffolding there, then what you want to do is you want to have an insurance plan strategy that spans over 3 years. Like, how are you going to grow into the 100 plus group? Because if you just come out of a PEO, let's say the PEO for whatever reason gives you a 30 or 40% renewal, and it's more about how they're managing their book of business, not so much what you're doing, then when you go into the large market, they're not only going to look at your risk, but then they're going to try to assess, well, why did the PEO give you such a high renewal? Well, it must be because you, in some way, shape, or form, are not a profitable group. Right. So you'll want to make sure that you understand the timing of that and how your employees are actually using the plans, which, can be difficult if you're on a PEO. So that's typically like why you may want to work with a broker along the way if you're trying to plan out that strategy. With our clients, we typically want to know, okay, so what demographics are you hiring for in the next 18 months at least? And what would be the strategy? Would you want to stick on the PEO? Can you guys handle the budget of the per employee per month fee? And about, we'll try to estimate what the rates can be. We might also negotiate some different pieces of their benefit rates on their behalf. Because, again, we have insights that, well, maybe even the PEO sales reps don't even have, right? So we can see both sides of it. And look, the main thing is figuring out if it makes sense for the client. It doesn't really matter what the admin fees are. It doesn't really matter what the insurance fees are. It really matters how does that all pool together and what's the total cost coming out of your bank account when you factor in your technology platform, your payroll, the net pay, the taxes, because other PEOs do charge you a percentage, and sometimes the percentage does wrap in those state unemployment rates and all that. TriNet doesn't do that. Okay. Again, contractors and global, if you want all that on one platform, I would say have them walk you through the actual technology platform. What does it look like? Because you may need to log in and out of certain systems. Pricing wise, contact sales, we typically say before you connect with sales, you want to have a good idea of, okay, what's my process look like for my employee lifecycle? What are my current benefits that I have in place? Do I have access to my plan designs? Do I have access to current invoices? All that. Because if you're shopping this on your own and you go to your broker and you don't really want them to freak out about it, and they're not comfortable with PEOs, then yeah, you're going to want to have some of these things in place before you reach out to sales. Because once you get into the sales conversation, you'll have a first meeting. It's usually a 6-stage process. The first one is a discovery call. Everybody wants to have a discovery call with you. Then the next piece is, hey, let's do an RFP. And a lot of times, I know at TriNet, they like our clients to go through a discovery call. And then while we're gathering the RFP data, which is census info, all that, to get pricing, they typically want to put you through a demo. But we tend to say, hey, put a pin on doing the demo until you've gotten approval, at least for the benefits of the workers' comp. Because if you get a decline to quote, then, you may still want to work with them in some way, shape, or form, but you might not, right? You might not. If you don't, then don't waste your time on a demo. If you did that times 4 or 5 different vendors, all of a sudden you've got a whole 2 or 3 days of time lost in a week or so, and you didn't need to. So yeah, so I would follow that cadence. You do the first meeting if it makes sense for you after you have your processes and all of your must haves in place. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure you pass that RFP. You've given them all the information, and they tell you, hey, you are approved for a quote. We'll give you medical, and then you start your analysis phase. When you do the analysis phase, that's when you really want to dig into, well, what can we negotiate here? Is it the insurance rates? Do they look like they're on par with what we currently have? Are they pricing me a little bit higher? How close am I to my renewal? How is this going to map out over the next 18 months? All that stuff. That's probably why I like working with the broker. Is helpful because the sales reps, they're some are good, some are bad at any company, but at the end of the day, they're incentivized to sell you guys on their platform this month and get you to run payroll as soon as possible. So like you want to think more long term, and again, I don't think that makes the sales team in any way, shape, or form bad, but you do want to go in there with your eyes wide open. Knowing like the process and what incentives they have to close you versus you taking a step back and doing your diligence. The other piece here is, once you get the approval and you go through the contracts, right, you're going to want to intimately read their TriNet service agreement and understand like what's the timing of, when can we run payroll? When can we release funds? If we have a payroll cycle right now that's semi-monthly and it stops first to the 15th, and right now we pay on the 15th, when does that deposit actually go into my employee's account? Those are the things you're going to want to roll through in the process. Also, whatever was said in the sales conversation should be in the contract. If it's not in the contract and it was said in the sales conversation, then really it's kind of doesn't exist. The other piece is mid-year conversions. People want to ask, hey, like, can I roll this over? As far as the taxes, do they restart? Yeah, most of the time the taxes restart, even though they are they are approved as a CPEO, a certified PEO. They don't generally use the CPEO, and we did find that out on a couple of clients in the rears where we thought we were getting the tax credit back for the year, but we didn't, right? Because they said, hey, like, you were on exchange 3, you weren't actually on the exchange that has the CPEO. What's an exchange? An exchange is, you'll see this with the PEOs a lot of times. They might have exchange 1, 2, 3, 4. I know ADP's got like 17. TriNet's got a few. Exchange 3 is the one that most companies are on. Exchange 2 is usually like blue collar companies, gray collar. That's because that risk class fits that profile a little more. You'll want to get an update. You'll see it in the service agreement. Exchange 4 is usually like financial services, pretty like really buttoned up benefits. Again, you'll want to like talk to the reps and see like, hey, what exchange am I on? And if there's any differences, they might have migrated everything at this point to where there's no nuances there. And then exchange 11, it's a carve-out traditionally. And again, they may have changed that too with some of their recent mergers with Zenefits and some of the other technologies they're putting into place. But look, overall, I think TriNet is a great platform for people who are just getting started. Again, they have one of our favorite plan designs. There is times when the renewals can be high, but again, I think every PEO goes through ebbs and flows where their book needs to get balanced, and there's certain business reasons why they may or may not do that. They also may be changing certain things in their demographics and trying to let go of certain clients that are a bad risk profile for the overall group long term. Best part about TriNet, I think, is because they're publicly traded. They do make decisions not only for the betterment of their clients, but also for the best interest of the company. They've been in business for 30 years or so. So, they do a great job overall. If you have any questions about, how, this works, I would say, one, feel free to reach out to us. I mean, if you have questions about TriNet or companies we're considering, schedule a time on my calendar this week. I'll be happy to help you think through your options, and we'll get to it in less than 30 minutes. So, that way you can decide which company is right for you and does TriNet make sense for our team. So let us know if you have any questions. Take care.